Welcome back to my kitchen. Today we're going to be looking at some lovely French dishes since I am in Paris after all. We're going to be making quiche Lorraine. Now the base for the quiche and the pastry can be used with any type of quiche you want. I've made smoked salmon quiche, I've made Italian vegetable quiche. It's all delicious no matter what you do, so I really hope you enjoy it. For the pastry you will need 1 1/4 cups of plain flour, 100 grams of salted butter. If you're using unsalted butter, just add half a teaspoon of salt. About 3 tablespoons of ice cold water. You might need to use a bit more. It's really important that it's ice cold water, so keep it in the fridge. For the filling, you'll need 1 1/2 cups of fresh cream, 5 medium-sized eggs, 100 to 200 grams of lardons, depending on how many lardons you like to have in your quiche. I probably will stick with my quiche size at about 100 grams. And a little bit of grated cheese. So roll up your sleeves and get ready to use your hands. So put in the flour. And the butter. And you want to rub it together until it resembles breadcrumbs. Now you want to spend as little time doing this as possible, so try and get it done quite quickly. You don't want the butter to melt from the temperature of your hands. Got 3 in there, and they weren't quite even, so I'm just adding a little bit more. Just going to mix that up. Now I'm trying to avoid touching it much more with my hands here. The reason for that is that I don't want the butter to melt too much. So it's made this lovely, you can see it here, this lovely ball shape. When it makes that nice shape, it means you're basically ready. I'm gonna wrap this in Glad wrap or cling film. If you've got some beeswax, it's great for that too. And I'm going to put it in the fridge for 1 hour to 3 hours. So I'm just dusting my surface top with flour so I can make the pastry. Got my chilled dough. And I'm just going to put a bit of flour on the rolling pin too to help with the sticking. And I want to avoid touching it with my hands where possible, because again with that butter I want it to be a bit flaky, the pastry, so I don't want to melt that butter. Okay, now I'm going to attempt to use my rolling pin to help lift it. Just gonna trim the edges off. Now I like to have a little bit of a rim going over the dish because what it does is when you're blind baking the quiche base, quite often if you've just got it to here, it will sink down and you'll lose your filling. So let's pull this off. You can chuck this back into the fridge and make a small version if there's any leftover mixture. Now, scrunch up your greaseproof paper for the blind bake. The reason for that is that it helps get into more of the cracks and holes, so you're actually going to be able to push down more of the pie base. So now you can see I've really been able to get right into those edges. And I use not cooked rice, but I've got some old rice that I've used for blind baking before, so I'm just going to add it in. Try and spread it evenly, and I'm going to put this in the oven for 10 to 15 minutes. Probably 10 to start off, and then I'll just check it. And then I'll cook it for another 5 to 10 after, without the rice. Now on a low to medium heat, I'm just going to cook the bacon. Now you don't want to brown or burn the lardons, you just want to cook them a little bit. It just will help them when they're in the quiche. And also if you have any like water or anything in there, you want to be able to get rid of it so it's not seeping into the quiche. So you can see here it's starting to get like a bunch of juices which are pulling. I'm just going to drain those out. It's probably about ready now. So put in your eggs and your cream. Now I like to use a nice thick cream. It just gives it a better texture. It doesn't become spongy like a lot of the quiches in the 70s were. Whisk it all together. Now at this point I like to add just a little bit of nutmeg. It just gives it that little extra bit. And a wee bit of salt. And a wee bit of pepper. Remove the rice, being really sure not to burn myself. I'm going to set it aside so that it can cool and so that I can reuse it for another time. I'm going to put this back in the oven for 5 minutes now. You can already see where there was a bit of the crust that didn't quite go over. It's already started to sink down. It's not a good thing. We don't want to lose any of the mixture. So here we go, our pie base is all ready to go. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to sprinkle the toppings just on the base. Try and spread them out so there's an even amount all over. Okay, for me it looks like 100 grams might be a bit too much, but hey ho. Let's get into all those hidden places, spread them around. So next time I think I'll go for 75 grams for this size of pie dish. Now I'm just gonna add the smallest amount of cheese. I mean, cheese isn't really necessary, it just adds a little bit of extra flavor, but it isn't necessary, so I don't want to put too much in. So I've got my mixture here ready to pour in. I don't want to overfill it. I want to be aware that it's going to rise a little bit as it cooks. Any leftover you can use to make some mini ones or anything like that. Okay, it's ready to go back in the oven. So I'm going to bake it in the oven at 180 degrees for 40 minutes. I'm going to keep an eye on it because I don't want it to brown too much on the top and start to burn. So maybe towards the end, in the last 10 minutes, keep checking on it.